I found using PeerWise really easy.
I thought it was a great break from the textbooks. It was something very different.
I really enjoyed that it was on the computer and that it was so accessible anytime that I wanted to study. It was right there for me.
The students actually participated far beyond our wildest expectations, to be honest.
Today's students are becoming more and more familiar with the value of user-generated content. They now have access to huge repositories of videos, images, social profiles and more, all of which have been contributed by other users. PeerWise focuses the energy of a class on the creation of a shared learning resource.
PeerWise is designed to help students learn from one another, and it does this by challenging them to create their own assessment questions that are relevant to what they're studying, and to explain in their own words their understanding of the related concepts, and then to take those questions and explanations and share them with their classmates.
One of the best things about PeerWise is that it's interactive, and so it's far less boring than reading a textbook for studying.
We had thousands of questions generated, and I was really impressed with some of the creativity that came through with the class.
Having a scoring system when you're studying is a bit more attractive than just writing past exam papers over and over again.
PeerWise is an innovative, web-based tool that supports students working collaboratively to create a large, annotated repository of multiple-choice questions.
Students can write the questions and they get to be really creative with the types of questions that they ask, and even the answers are pretty funny but still relevant to the material.
When creating a high-quality question, a student must reflect on the learning goals of the course, consider misconceptions when proposing good alternative answers, understand the topic in depth, and write a clear explanation for the correct answer.
I found the explanations really helpful, especially for those questions that were quite in depth that students had really thought of.
They'd taken the concepts which we'd taught them and applied them into something that was much more real in their environment.
That would make you review the day's lectures and try and put it into a way that you understood and a way that you think other students would understand.
Usually when you're a student, you're just used to answering questions that lecturers give you, but it was a really different style of learning, so I enjoyed it.
Once questions have been submitted, other students in the course can use them for self-assessment. Students receive immediate feedback on the responses they select and can see how their peers have answered the same question.
I got addicted to PeerWise. It's really fun, just clicking the questions and making sure you get as many right as possible.
Upon answering a question, the author's explanation for the answer is shown, and students can participate in a discussion of the question by posting their own comments.
People commented on my questions quite a lot, not all of them positive, but that was also good because it helped me see maybe things that I hadn't understood so well and hadn't explained so well either.
The interactions are designed to be very social, so students can see how their peers have answered the same questions as them. They can write comments about questions that they see. They can give good ratings to questions that they find useful, and they can subscribe or follow authors who are writing questions that they like.
You could see what everyone else had gotten from the lectures themselves and whether I'd kind of been dozing off and missed a whole bunch, which occasionally did happen, but most of the time it was good just to see that I was on the same page as everybody else.
Ideally, along the way, you get a lot of memorable feedback about how well they're understanding the course material relative to their peers.
I think the feedback is one of the best things about PeerWise.
Students did write comments on my questions, and I found it really exciting because the first time I wrote a question, I was amazed because within 1 minute there were like 3 responses, and then it became really exciting going back on PeerWise and just seeing what people had written.
Students are also challenged to evaluate the questions they answer. Not only does this bring important critical analysis skills into play, but it also helps to improve the usefulness of the repository, because these ratings are shared with everyone. As the repository grows and students actively rate the questions, the good quality questions are filtered from the rest.
In our class we had thousands of questions posted on PeerWise, and I found it really useful that questions were rated so you could decide on questions on a level of easy, medium or hard, and also that down the bottom you could pick questions by their subject and what they were relating to from the course.
Questions of interest can be found by selecting from a set of topics that are either student created or defined by the course instructor.
The quality of some of the questions was just amazing, like far better than what we again ever anticipated, and it was really lovely to see student comments. Like there was one particular student who wrote fabulous questions, and there were others that had written that I'm really glad I followed you as an author.
Authors of individual questions can be followed, making it easy for students to find additional questions created by authors that they like.
People who write good questions tend to write a lot of good questions, so by following it, it allowed you to quick access to good questions.
Leaderboards also exist, allowing students to compare their performance against that of the most active users.
As a competitive individual, a point scoring system is really cool for studying, because the higher points you get, the more motivated you are to try and get number one.
Looking at the PeerWise score gave you a comparison of how well you were doing with the rest of the class, and it gave you a goal to work towards improving your score.
For instructors, creating a repository on PeerWise is very simple, and students are provided with an interface that is intuitive and easy to use.
One of the reasons that PeerWise is so simple for instructors to adopt is that it's designed to complement rather than replace any existing teaching resources or strategies. So for a new instructor, it can take less than a minute before a new repository is set up and their students can start accessing that and start building this bank of questions. And of course the real goal is through their collective efforts for students to create a genuinely valuable resource.
I really didn't have to do very much. I just told the students what they had to do, and the actual use of PeerWise by me was looking at the results.
I'm not particularly technical, and I found it very easy to use the interface in terms of setting stuff up really quickly in a very time-restricted sort of manner. I've got a high teaching load, and I put it in place right towards the end of the development for the course for that year.
While all activity on PeerWise is anonymous to students, as a course instructor you can monitor students' levels of participation, control who has access to your course repository, and watch the trends in activity over time.
So I think where I spend most of my time looking at PeerWise myself is in the results and looking at what the students have produced, the questions they've asked, the summaries and statistics that PeerWise provides, just trying to get a feel for how PeerWise has been used by the students and what kinds of questions they're asking, and when they've asked those questions and when they've answered questions. It's all really very interesting.
One of the best things about PeerWise is that it's completely anonymous, so that means that your questions can be anything that you want, and the explanations or feedback that you give can be completely honest.
It gave me an extra tool for revision, and it also helped me to see where other students are and what they're thinking about within the subject.
If you would like to find out more about PeerWise or are interested in using it with your own students, please visit us online at peerwise.cs.auckland.ac.nz.